Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Hello and welcome to the Skeptic Zone podcast 231 for the 23rd of March, 2013. I'm a simulated human voice standing in for Richard.
It's all right, simulated human, it's okay. I'm feeling a lot better. I can do the show this week.
Are you sure?
Yes, I think I can manage. Thank you very much. I'm almost better. You know, I'm nearly over the cold.
I see. Well, I think you need to see a simulated doctor. I know a homeopath that might help.
Yes, I know homeopaths are simulated doctors, but it's all right. I think I'll struggle on.
All right then. Oh, thanks to all the Zone listeners who sent me fan mail from last week. I'll just go away now.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Yes, it's the Skeptic Zone. Richard Saunders here, back with you again. Almost better. A bit of a rough week with the old coughs and the colds and all that sort of thing. But never mind. Coming up on this week's show, I interviewed Dr. Steve Novella from The Skeptic's Guide to the Universe. Steve's going to tell us about reaching the great milestone of 400 episodes and other background bits and pieces with The Skeptic's Guide to the Universe. After that, it's a week in science with our good friend Dr. Paul Willis from the Royal Institution in Adelaide, riaus.org.au. And then we have Brian Dunning with his latest episode of inFact, the video series. Well, the audio's quite good too. And Brian looks at genetically modified food. GM food, Frankenstein food, it's been called, coming up with Brian Dunning. And then to wrap up the show, we have a guest editorial from Benjamin Radford. Benjamin Radford and his comments and thoughts on astral projection. Leaving the body, floating around and coming back, and, well, that's the claim anyway. Now, thank you to all the listeners who wrote to me in the course of the week saying how much they enjoyed the last episode, the on-the-spot, the field reporting from the water divining test with skeptics and water diviners. I must admit, I really enjoyed making that episode, and certainly I enjoyed being there on the spot doing the interviews. And a big shout out to Ron Proctor, who is the production coordinator at the Ott Planetarium, Weber State University in Utah. And Ron has kindly invited me to tour his planetarium. If I ever get to Utah, Ron, if I ever do, I will. Now, those people in Sydney still have time to grab your tickets to see Sean Fairclough on the 24th of March at the Sydney Opera House. Now, the best way to grab your tickets and find out more information is simply Google Sean Fairclough Sydney Opera House, or go to sydneyoperahouse.com, and right on the front page at the moment are details about that upcoming talk. Now, for listeners in Norway, in Oslo, I'm delighted to say that I've been asked to appear at Skeptics in the Pub on the 6th of April. The 6th of April, Norway, Oslo, Skeptics in the Pub. More details about that coming up in the next few weeks, although if you are living in Oslo, I'm sure you know how to get to the various information about Skeptics in the Pub. I'm also delighted to say that I'll be speaking in Dublin a few nights later on. Haven't quite nailed the date down just yet, but keep your eyes open. Run to the internet if you're in Dublin. Ask your local skeptics. I'm sure they'll be able to fill you in. And after that, I'll be at QED in Manchester. Let's see, when do I get to sleep? I'm not sure, because after QED, of course, I'm off to the wonderful Science Festival in Olomouc in the Czech Republic. And that's going from the 16th to the 21st of April. AFO.CZ is the website that I encourage you to visit. Oh, there's even a picture of me. Science will meet myth. Richard Saunders will participate, it says. Well, I hope so. I'm going to be introducing some of Richard Dawkins' videos, The Enemies of Reason. So I'm very much looking forward to that. What an honour. Also very honoured to be introducing Here Be Dragons by Brian Dunning. I'll also be judging some of the international films, giving origami lessons, and doing a water divining test. as much as I can possibly pack in, and very, very happy to be a guest at this wonderful festival, AFO, the 48th International Festival of Science Documentary Films. Please visit www.afo.cz for more information. And if you're in the Czech Republic, or if you're in Germany, well, let's just face it, if you're anywhere in Europe, try to come along. Well, I don't think I've done so much talking in the last week, and my voice is already beginning to, it's just on the edge. I better be careful. I have to be nice and well for my big trips coming up. So I'm going to sit back. Well, I'll run to the fridge. No, I won't run to the fridge. I'll run to the kettle. Chicken soup. That's the way. Not homeopathic, just normal chicken soup. Sip some of that while we all listen to the Skeptic Zone. And joining me now on the line from the beautiful east coast of the United States, up in New England, Dr. Steve Novella. Hello, Steve.
Hey, Richard. How you doing?
Not too bad, Steve, but sometimes I wish you were my next-door neighbour so I could knock on your door and say, Steve, I've got a slight cough and a cold, and what can you recommend for me? But I'm on the mend. I'm not doing so bad.
Well, you can always Skype me if you have any medical questions.
Oh, I wish I'd known that a week ago. All right, we'll talk offline. Steve, look, let me congratulate you on behalf of all the Skeptic Zone listeners, who I know many of whom are great fans of the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, for 400 episodes. Now,
Oh, thank you.
That's quite an achievement in anybody's book.
Yeah, it's we're pretty happy that we survived for this long. It would have been unbelievable 8 years ago to think that we would have cranked out 400 episodes. Just seems completely daunting. But I guess it's just a matter of perseverance and consistency,
I think you've hit the two key aspects of doing a podcast, and certainly crosses my mind. And we're in the same situation. I guess we both produce the show, and we both know that every week there needs to be a show come out. And I guess it really does teach you some discipline.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a job unto itself, and you have to, as you say, be disciplined. You have to, it's got to be part of your schedule. You can't just do it when you have time somewhere. It's got to be absolutely built into your schedule.
And our shows are very different, of course, where mine is varies from interviews to field reports to items and things. Yours is really based on the fact that the five of you can get together wherever possible. Sometimes one or two of you have to duck out for whatever reason, and discuss skeptical and scientific issues of the day, which also means that your team have to be somewhat disciplined too.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it takes a little cracking of the whip to keep pushing it forward. There always has to be, for any project, I've come to believe there's got to be one person that's totally uncompromising and makes it happen no matter what. But I have a good crew. They work really hard. They're there every week. They prep their items. They always come with a good attitude, and we enjoy being together on the show. It's a lot of fun. The best stuff, of course, is the stuff that happens offline. The things that when we're chatting or we go off script to a little bit too much, and it's stuff that really can't make it into the show itself. But it's those tend to be the funniest moments. But that's what that's what keeps our spirits up and keeps us going.
Oh, I think that's a great attitude to have, and I know, because I've been, of course, very lucky and honoured to be a guest rogue from time to time. I know that when we're recording some episodes, there's a lot of laughter and chatting and things that you can't use that go on behind the scenes.
Yeah, you've seen how the sausage is made, right? I
have, and I've also been privy to a Skeptic's Guide to the Universe meeting at I think it was the last TAM, where we were in a room trying to nut out the live show, and that can be quite an interesting experience. I think listeners of your show would probably pay tickets to be in that room.
Yeah, we were just brainstorming what to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a process. Obviously, we've done it quite a few times, so we've got it down pretty well. Again, everybody sort of knows their role. on the show. But it's pretty even. I mean, anybody could do anything, really, is the interesting thing. Jay and Bob and Rebecca and Evan have the things that they're specialties, that they're specialists in terms of the kind of content they like to produce. But really, any of them can talk about anything. And I particularly enjoy the topics that I assign to everybody, where it's, okay, everyone's got to read up on this because I want this to be a 5-way discussion, not one person necessarily taking the lead.
Right, and I certainly remember that when I was involved that you gave me little tasks and things that you wanted me to cover on the live show, and just reaching back into my memory now, I think it was partly to do with the fake bomb detector kits.
Yeah.
At the time, which is a terrible story, and also the number of moons in the solar system for some reason. I remember. Well,
Pluto had 2 new moons, and we just started chatting about moons in general. Yeah.
Right. So it really is a mixed bag. Everything and anything can come up on the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, and I suppose that's part of the appeal and part of the success of the show is from week to week, listeners are never quite sure what they're going to get in the way of topics.
Yeah, there's really only one criterion, and that is I have to find it interesting. And that's it. If I think I would enjoy hearing about it or talking about it, and I think it would be fun, then that's the absolute minimum, criterion. Then on top of that, there are parameters in terms of what topics we will cover. We try to stay away from things that are like purely political, for example. There has to be, I guess, the other criterion would be there's got to just be some angle that is science or critical thinking. And that's it. And sometimes like Bob or somebody will pitch a story to me. I'm like, okay, so what's the scientific angle there? Why are our listeners interested in that? What are we going to talk about? How are we going to delve deep into that? And if they can't answer that question, or I can't think of what the answer is, then we don't talk about it. Even though it might be something that may be interesting for other reasons.
I think that you and I are of the same mind here. I also have my friends and reporters will come to me, and sometimes I'll say, well, why don't we do this, that, or the other? And I say, that's great. Where's the angle? Where is the skeptical or the interesting scientific angle we can exploit here? Because otherwise, I guess we could have a show about just about any topic under the sun.
Yeah. No, yeah, absolutely. And we do we branch out and we experiment, and some of our experiments fail. But that's okay. I think you have we have enough of a long enough format. We've done enough shows that we can afford to experiment and not be afraid if a bit doesn't go well. But like we reviewed a movie. We did Prometheus,
right?
And that was different, but our listeners loved it. They're asking us to do more movies, and we're going to do it because it worked out. It worked out really well. We had a lot of fun, and I think when we have fun, our listeners have fun.
Now, while we're chatting about the team, let me give a special shout-out. Well, say hello to all the team of the Skeptic Guide to the Universe. You're all my dear friends, but I just want to have a quick shout-out to Jay, of course, being a first-time recent father.
That's right. He has a son, Dylan, with his wife, Courtney, just 5 weeks old now, 6 weeks old. Cute as a button, of course. If you listen to the show, you've heard his squeaky voice.
Yes,
Jay couldn't resist playing it. A proud new dad, and Jay is loving it. He's having a great time. He's totally sleep deprived, which is interesting because Jay's mental faculties definitely show the wear. But he's when he shows up for the show, he's still Jay, but I could tell that he's like just completely sleep deprived,
Well, no shock there.
Yeah, but he and Courtney are really having a good time with their new son, and it's fun for me because I've been through it all a couple of times, so I get to watch him go through it and give him some of the benefit of my experience, just giving him a heads up as to what to expect. But it's fun also just watching him sort of discover all the emotions and everything for himself,
Oh yeah, I'm sure it is. Well, then you can sort of look at it that it's the next generation of the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe podcast is already sort of there waiting, Then
right.
The replacements are on their way in due time. Now, Steve, you've got a very interesting thing coming up in April, I believe, which is the huge meeting in New York, Nexus.
Yeah, the Northeast Conference on Science and Skepticism, Nexus as we call it, April 5th to 7th. We really do have a great lineup this year. Leonard Mlodinow is our keynote speaker. He wrote The Drunkard's Walk. He wrote a book, the follow-up book with Stephen Hawking, a briefer history of time, I think it was called. And John Ronson, Simon Singh, Mariette DiChristina, who's the editor of Scientific American, Michael Shermer. We have a great lineup. And Friday night, we're doing something new. Again, we're experimenting, but we're doing a show called Stimulus Response. It's a brainchild of Brian Wecht and George Hraub. So George and his cousin are going to create art on stage in real time. So you'll sort of watch the creative process. George is going to write a song, and his cousin, who's a painter, is going to paint a painting in 45 minutes on stage. And then we're going to talk about the neuroscience of creativity. And then they have some comedians lined up who are going to do some improv, and they're going to incorporate one of the speakers, who last I heard was going to be John Ronson, which should be great because John he's a sport, he's really game for this kind of thing, and I think the guy's hilarious. I love he has this dry, self-deprecating humor that I think is fantastic.
What a lineup, and what an interesting session that sounds like. Now, do you know if the tickets are still available?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Tickets are still available for everything. And, of course, the SGU does a live show on stage. Rationally Speaking Podcast is also doing a live show. And we do a private recording Saturday night. We're still working out the details, but a couple of tickets opened up for that. We're figuring out how to sell those off because so many people were requesting tickets. Sold out almost immediately, and the private SG recording on Saturday night. But now we have a few spaces opened up, so there'll be some opportunities maybe to nab one of those.
That sounds fantastic. How can people find out more? What's the address they should go to?
So just go to necss.org. All the information is there.
Now, you and I both, Steve, we really like the public events, the big events like TAM and so on, and it's a great opportunity to meet fans of the show. You must have, over the years, met some great Skeptic's Guide to the Universe fans.
Yeah, we really love going to the live events. I mean, not only because we get to see all of our skeptical friends that otherwise we only get to, talk with over Skype or email. So it's, the few opportunities we have to hang out with our colleagues once or twice a year. But we love meeting with our listeners. We always have tables and try to spend as much time as we can there. Although we're busy at events, either running them, we run the events and do recording interviews and prepping for our shows and everything. But as much time as we can get away, just sitting behind the table, talking with our listeners. We usually hold some events, like dinners or whatever, where we spend a lot of time with people who listen to the show, and that's always great. I mean, I love to hear their stories, love to get their feedback. That's one of the things that really recharges our batteries and makes it, brings it home. Because otherwise, you're sitting in your house producing this content, you send it off into the ether, and you could still feel pretty isolated. The online interaction's great, but it's not the same thing as having somebody come up to you and say, "Oh, I really appreciate all the work you're doing and the show that you put on." So it really is very nice.
Yeah, I have to agree. It's very nice indeed, and I guess again we have a very similar situation where very, very kind people will come up and say how much they enjoy the show, and it's part of their life. Every week they'll download the show and off they'll go to work, or they'll go jogging. I mean, there are people listening to us now doing all sorts of things as part of their weekly routine, and that's very nice to know.
Yeah, it really is.
Now, let me talk with you just for a short while about a recent interesting adventure you had. Well, recent, I guess it was a little while ago, where you appeared on the Dr. Oz show. Now, I must tell you that Dr. Oz is played here in Australia at least 5 days a week, and it's quite popular. Now, you would have appeared here on Australian TV. I'm not exactly sure when that would have been broadcast, but what can you tell our listeners about your experience being on the Dr. Oz show?
Yeah, so I was contacted by a producer of the show, and at first I thought, well, do they know who I am? I mean, are they sure were they just fishing for some random, neurologist? No, but they had read some of the articles that we wrote about Dr. Oz on my blog and on Science-Based Medicine, where we're pretty critical of him. He dispenses a lot of information, and a lot of what he talks about on his show is fine. It's pretty straightforward medical knowledge. But he also will delve into pseudoscience, and I think he's been doing that increasingly, promoting all kinds of nonsense like homeopathy and acupuncture, and now the latest fad diet pill, it seems, the latest supplement or anything. So we've criticized him when he strays into the pseudoscience, but they wanted to bring me on the show to talk about it, our criticisms of his promotion of alternative medicine. So I actually emailed my science-based medicine colleagues, David Gorski and Kimball and Mark and Harry and those guys, and said, wait, what do you guys think about this? I mean, it's a great opportunity, but it's also a huge potential for failure here because he's going to completely control the content. And you know how much power you have in the editing room. You can make anybody sound like anything you want.
Sure.
There's a certain amount of trust you give when you allow yourself to be interviewed by somebody else, and they're going to completely control the content. And we weren't sure that we should do that, but in the end, I decided that it was too big an opportunity to pass up, and that it was worth the chance. Plus, I've been in these situations before, so I sort of trusted myself to handle it. To not say something stupid or get lured into saying something that I shouldn't. You have to, I've disciplined enough to speak in sound bites that I'm happy that they will stand on their own. They can always, of course, alter the context of what you're saying. But so I went on the show. Dr. Oz did not say two words to me except when I was on stage with him. There was he didn't visit me in the green room, never said hi to me. It was my interaction with him was 100% on stage.
Wow.
Which I thought was a little cold. But it actually went fairly well. He did give me an opportunity to say my piece. Obviously not as much as I would have liked. And I thought the audience responded well to the points that I made. Obviously I couldn't be too I couldn't be antagonistic. I had to come off as the nice guy. That was, I think, the whole point of him. My guess is he wanted somebody on the show so that he could talk at them to make the points he wanted to make. And if he could get us to be like sort of the bad guy, that would be a bonus. But I think I managed to come off as a likable person. I knew that was really my only goal, was to be likable. And I got a few points in. And but Oz reserved sort of the closing statement for himself, made his little brief rant, stating his position, and gave me no opportunity to respond. And the one thing he said to me off camera was I guess he realized that it's pretty rude to have a guest on your show and then to talk at them for a minute and then cut them off and end the segment. So he did say, "Oh, sorry, I had to do that. We were running late." Like sort of this sort of quickie, lame apology for doing that. But other than that, that was the only thing he said to me that wasn't on camera. And then we had to wait and see how they were going to edit it. And the editing actually was not bad. They kept most of the segment. They didn't chop it up. So in the end, I was glad that I went on the show. I think it probably helped us more than anything else.
Did you get much feedback or fallout from that?
Yeah, lots of feedback. So a lot of people saw me on the show, even people who are not regular consumers of science-based medicine or the SGU. So I think it was a skeptical win. It was good for the science-based medicine brand, to get it out there. I had a lot of my own patients said, "Hey, I saw you on the Dr. RiAus show," and so these are just regular people. They're not skeptics or in the community, and the feedback was mostly that people thought that my appearance was good, and that a lot of people noted that they thought Oz was a little rude to me at the end. Which to me means that it probably backfired on him a little bit. And another thing that was interesting, a lot of people said to me that they really like Dr. Oz, but he does go off the deep end on the alternative medicine thing, and then they just ignore him when he starts talking about stuff like that, which I thought was interesting. So some of his fans will separate that out. Like they take the real information and they just ignore the nonsense, which was heartening to hear. That they're still distinguishing the kind of information he's giving. Not that he's not doing damage by promoting nonsense, but at least some people out there can tell the difference.
Oh, well, we look forward to the day when it's the Dr. Steve TV show.
That would be nice. So you'll be the first one to know, Richard.
I would appreciate that. Then you can have Dr. Oz on your TV show and talk at him for 5 minutes.
Hey, I invited him on the SGU. Never got back to me.
Well, there you go. I guess he is a very, very busy man indeed.
I guess so.
Now, Steve, I think the next opportunity we will have to see each other in person and have a drink will be probably TAM 2013. TAM in July, I think it is, in Las Vegas this year.
Yeah, July. Looking forward to it. Yeah, can't wait to see you again. That's always, again, the highlight of these conferences is getting to see our friends. But yeah, we're really looking forward to TAM. TAM is one of I think it's still the biggest, annual skeptical conference that we have by the JREF. James Randi, of course, is always there hosting. And, the SGU is always a big part of it. We put on 2 live shows, actually, and a dinner, and I do a science-based medicine workshop and a panel. It's always really busy, but we love it. It's just a full weekend. It
certainly is. It's of course, it's one of the highlights of my calendar every year is not only seeing old friends like my friends at the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, but meeting so many people and having a chat to Randy. Being in Las Vegas is always a lot of fun. So I think we can always look forward to a TAM.
Yeah, it's great networking, too. I mean, we meet new people that we should know, but we just, for whatever reason, never came across them until we run into them at these conferences, and we get great interviews for the show. It's really, we get so much content. It's awesome.
Oh, yeah, I hear you. Me, too. It's a golden opportunity for me, too, and especially with my people like my reporter Maynard, to grab lots of interviews, which helps me and helps you produce more and more podcasts. And sometimes it's gold to have a nice 30-minute interview or something like that.
Yeah, and the live interviews are just, there's a different energy, when the person's in the room with you as opposed to just a voice over the phone. So I enjoy the live interviews a lot. The visual feedback is what's missing when we're recording over the internet,
Yeah, I'm looking at a funny cartoon character of you right now on my screen, but it'll just have to do.
Right, my Skype image, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Steve, 400 episodes, again, it's just a mind-snapping achievement. And when you say it's, over 8 years, it sounds even more incredible. People are growing up with the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, which is an interesting thought. And all I can say is I hope you keep doing it for as long as you can possibly keep doing it. And to be together with the same team. And, of course, we remember Perry at this time, who sadly isn't. Always remember Perry, who isn't part of the team now, of course. And I'm very sad I never got the opportunity to meet him. But still, with basically the same team after all these years, it's quite an achievement.
Yeah, and I have to say, and this is, not to be sappy or anything, but it really is because of our listeners. I mean, early on, we had conversations, although we increased pretty steadily, but, we talked to each other like, what are we going to do? How long are we going to do this if we don't get a reasonable listener base, if it doesn't take off? Luckily, we never had to face that question because, our listeners increased steadily over the years. But it's our listeners that keep us going. It's the feedback that we get, the interaction that we have with them. If it weren't for that, there's no way that we would have the energy to keep doing this week after week.
Thank you, listeners. you're absolutely right, Steve, and I get the same sort of feeling when I get very, very kind emails coming back to the Skeptic Zone. Well, Steve, I think I should let you now study and prep for your next Skeptic's Guide to the Universe. Your listeners wouldn't forgive you if the show was late. But I'd like to thank you very much for taking time out to chat to the listeners of the Skeptic Zone.
It's my pleasure, and thank you, Richard.
Hello. Simulated human voice here again. During the week I saw the first episode of a new ABC TV series called The Checkout. I must say it was very skeptical indeed, and I know Saunders enjoyed it. You can see it for yourself at the ABC website, www.abc.net.au, or for those outside Australia, search for it on YouTube.
Virtual Skeptics is a weekly web show in which we discuss the latest news in skepticism.
Whether it's a new case of spontaneous human combustion, a conspiracy theory, the latest update on the upcoming robot apocalypse, tech news for skeptics, or the latest wacky religious claim, we cover it all.
We record the show live as a Google Plus on-air hangout, so join us and our host Brian Gregory for an hour of mostly intelligent talk every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern U.S. time.
Watch us at virtualskeptics.com and participate in the show on our hashtag #VirtualSkeptics.
The Virtual Skeptics. It's like Meet the Press, but with chupacabras.
Welcome to A Week in Science from RiAus. This week, life at the bottom of the oceans, instant gold, and evolution in action. First up, the deepest place on the Earth has been found to house an unexpectedly large population of living creatures. Researchers measured oxygen consumption as an indicator of microbial life in the Mariana Trench at an astounding depth of 11,000 metres. They found a surprisingly active community and suggested that they're fed by relatively high levels of incoming sediment. In news for modern-day prospectors, earthquakes may be causing the deposit of gold. That's gold, I tells ya! It's long been thought that gold in quartz deposits form over long periods of time as the dissolved gold slowly solidifies out of mineral-rich solutions. But a new theory proposed this week suggests that earthquakes cracking rocks deep underground form spaces of lower pressure than the surrounding rock. This sudden change in pressure solidifies the dissolved gold and other minerals out of the surrounding solution almost instantaneously. And now, 4 science headlines in 30 seconds. Giant squid may in fact all be a single species and not multiple species as previously thought. Roadkills of cliff swallows may be forcing evolution, with fewer birds being hit and the birds having shorter wings. Further analysis by CERN has confirmed that the elementary particle discovered in July last year was indeed a Higgs boson. And Japanese researchers found that the timing of a rooster's crow each morning depends on their internal biological clock and not the presence of the sun. Finally this week, a new development in 3D displays. This new approach uses diffractive optics to produce 3-dimensional images which can be viewed from multiple angles, even when the device is tilted. It consists of a set of LEDs and a thin filter that manipulates light to produce different views and colours. This is not an expensive holographic technique, but a faster and cheaper option. This glasses-free technology could revolutionise data visualisation, medical training and entertainment. Don't forget about Science Behind the Headlines Drugs in Sport this Tuesday, March 26th. Our expert panel will be examining this hot topic, and you can be part of the audience at the Science Exchange or by following the live stream on our website. The show starts at 6:30 p.m. Central Australian Time, 7 p.m. in the East and 5 in the West. That's been the highlights of another big week in science. For more information and other science news, check out the RiAus website, riaus.org.au, where you can also sign up for notifications of future episodes. You can follow A Week in Science on Twitter using the hashtag WeekInSci. I'm Paul Willis, and on behalf of the RiAus team, I'll see you next week.
Hei, jeg Marit. Og jeg Kristin. Og vi vil tipse deg som norsk lytter av Skeptic Zone om skeptikermiljøet I Norge. Det finnes norske blogger og pubtreff og podcast, og foreningen Skepsis driver med slikt som disse du hører på nå. Sentralt skepsis.no, og her publiseres det dyptgående artikler, en kalender over aktiviteter og lenker til nyttige ressurser. Skepsis-bloggen oppdateres jevnlig, og det diskuteres heftig på forumet, så stikk innom og delta du også. Skepsis.no.
Why the big fuss about GMO crops? Are they indeed as terrible as some people say? I'm Brian Dunning, and you're watching inFact. Welcome to the show that gives you the real facts behind popular myths. Are GMO crops good or bad? Well, the question actually doesn't make sense, because direct genetic modification is a technology, not a product. It's one basic technology for creating new plant varieties. Another basic technology is hybridization, or crossbreeding. Think of the difference between a typewriter and a computer. They're two different technologies that can be used to write a book. But it makes no sense to ask, are books written on computers good or bad? We all understand that it's the end product itself that's important, not the technology with which it was created. Using a computer instead of a typewriter may make the work easier, but it does not inherently result in a book that's either better or worse. And by the same token, it makes no sense to ask if GMO crops are good or bad. We have to look instead at the end product. Using genetic modification lets us, for example, copy and paste specific genes, just as a computer lets you copy and paste paragraphs from one document to the other. You can copy and paste a gene that makes the plant better, or a gene that makes it worse. You can copy and paste text to make an exciting book or a boring book. One of the most common GMO crops is Bt corn, which stands for Bacillus thuringiensis. Its purpose is to make the corn naturally resistant to caterpillars without requiring a pesticide. Now, to make Bt corn, we clipped one gene from a naturally occurring soil bacterium and pasted it into traditional corn. That gene makes the corn produce a protein that causes caterpillars to stop eating. Simple. We get a corn that's nutritionally unchanged and no pesticide has to be sprayed, so the corn's cleaner too. So the next time someone tells you that GMO crops are either good or bad, ask them which variety they're talking about, just as you'd ask what book they liked. Ask them which gene conferred the trait they're concerned about, just as you might ask about a character in the book. Chances are you'll reveal that they have no idea what they're talking about. Being written on a computer doesn't make a book good or bad, and being developed with direct genetic manipulation doesn't make a plant good or bad. Before you jump onto any pop culture bandwagon, understand the basic science, and then make an informed jump. I'm Brian Dunning, and this has been inFact. inFact is made possible by financial support from viewers like you. Please visit infactvideo.com.
您现在收听的是 Skeptic Zone， 我是丽丝，我们的网址是 skeptoid.com.cn。 Skeptoid 是一个科学类 podcast 节目，我们每期都会讨论新的话题，包括探讨流行的传奇故事、阴谋论，或者是声称超自然的现象。您可以到 iTunes 的中文网站下载 Skeptoid， 或者是访问我们的网址skeptoid.com.cn. The Skeptoid Science Podcast by Brian Dunning is now available for Chinese audience. Please tell your Chinese friends to visit skeptoid.com.cn or find Skeptoid on the Chinese iTunes Store. I'm Li Si from skeptoid.com.cn.
This is Ben Radford. I'm Deputy Editor of Skeptical Inquirer Science Magazine, author of 6 books, including Tracking Chupacabra, and you can find out more about me at benjaminradford.com.
Astral projection. The idea that humans can leave their bodies during dream states is an ancient one. Countless people, from New Agers to shaman to the 19th century occult philosopher Madame Blavatsky, believe that it's possible to commune with cosmic intelligences through visions and vivid dreams experienced during astral projection, also known as out-of-body experiences. Studies suggest that between 8 and 20% of people claim to have had something like an out-of-body experience at some point in their lives, a sensation of the consciousness, spirit, or astral body leaving the physical body. While most experiences occur during sleep paralysis or under hypnosis, some people claim to do it while they're merely relaxing. According to one popular theory, the astral body remains connected through a metaphorical silver cord, which is sort of like an umbilical cord, that tethers the roaming consciousness to the physical body. Though practiced for millennia, these days astral travel can be big business. A man named Mark Pritchard, who goes by the more evocative moniker VM Beelzebub, offers an online course and book on how to astral travel in 8 weeks. As he explains, quote, "The astral is one of 2 planes in the 5th dimension. It is where dreams occur, where mystical teachings are given, and where the deceased go. You can meet spiritual beings in the astral, discover secret knowledge, learn about yourself, see where your spiritual obstacles and inner defects are, learn hidden wisdoms about death, the process of awakening, get premonitions from the future, receive guidance, discover your purpose in life, discover what really happens after death, and much more. It is something that really happens to you. You actually find yourself in another dimension, existing outside the physical world. You'll be able to fly, go through walls and objects, meet people, and travel to distant places. It is a profound experience." End quote. Sounds pretty exciting. It's that really covers just about everything you might want to learn, I would think, about yourself and the world around you. So, it may be a profound experience, but the fundamental problem is that there's really no way to scientifically measure whether or not a person's spirit, whatever that is, leaves or enters the body. The simplest and best explanation for out-of-body experiences is that the person's merely fantasizing and dreaming. Because there's no scientific evidence that the soul exists, or for that matter, that consciousness can exist outside of the brain, the premise behind astral travel is rejected by scientists. One of the most important scientific principles, Occam's razor, is that if you have a phenomena to be explained and several different theories that are proposed as solutions, the simplest one, or the one with the fewest assumptions, is likely to be the correct answer. One common illustration of this is a statement when someone says, "When you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not unicorns." Or in this case, when you have a dreamlike experience while sleeping or resting, think dreaming, not astral projection. Practitioners of astral travel insist that it must be real because it seems so vivid, and because some of the experiences are similar even for people from different cultures. But it's not surprising that many people who try astral travel may have similar experiences. After all, that's what the term guided imagery is. It's when an authority, such as a psychologist or astral travel teacher, for example, tells people what they should experience when they're having astral travel. The power of suggestion can be very powerful. And a person who is told that they will encounter an alien or godlike entity who imparts cosmic wisdom is likely to imagine exactly that. The problem is that there's no evidence that those people who leave their bodies are actually going anywhere, and certainly not anywhere on Earth. One strong piece of evidence that the travel takes place inside the mind is that those who return from out-of-body experiences can't give verifiable details or information about the places they've been or what they've seen. If real, astral travel would be incredibly useful. There would be no need to send humans into dangerous situations, such as the 2011 Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster in Japan, to find out what the situation is, or if, for example, a meltdown is imminent. Instead, engineers should be able to simply visit the site astrally to survey the damage and report back without the dangers of radiation contamination. For that matter, if consciousnesses can fly, go through walls, and circle the globe, it should have been a simple matter for astral projection teams to locate Osama bin Laden during his decade of hiding out in Pakistan and save innocent lives, not to mention collecting a $25 million reward. The disincarnate consciousnesses of bilingual astral projecting spies could easily visit top-secret facilities around the world and return with important information about everything from corporate trade secrets to military nuclear codes. If astral bodies truly can visit other planets, there seems to be little need for the $2.5 billion spent on the Mars rovers, since scientists could simply travel there astrally during dreams and provide detailed information about the geography, soil composition, and ecology of Mars. According to researcher Sue Blackmore, author of Beyond the Body, an investigation into out-of-body experiences, people who experience astral travel, quote, have been found to score higher on measures of hypnotizability and, in several surveys, on measures of absorption, which is a measure of a person's ability to pay complete attention to something and become immersed in it, even if it's not real, like a play, film, or imagined event, end quote. Out-of-body experiences are more imaginative, suggestible, and fantasy-prone than average, though they have low levels of drug and alcohol use and no obvious signs of psychopathology or mental illness. It's also possible that some of the out-of-body experiences are a result of dreaming during what's called microsleep, falling asleep for anywhere from a fraction of a second to maybe half a minute and not realizing it. This is common when people are tired, relaxing, or doing tedious activities such as long-haul trucking. In some cases, the person may believe they've been out of their bodies for minutes or even hours, when in fact they've simply experienced microsleeps. If a believer in astral projection has a sudden, unexplainable, and vivid dream and doesn't know they were asleep, this could easily be interpreted as an out-of-body experience. Though astral projection practitioners are convinced their experiences are real and not merely dreams or fantasies, their evidence is all anecdotal. Just as a person who takes peyote or LSD may be truly convinced that they interacted with God, dead people, or angels while in an altered state. It's not a coincidence that drug users refer to a psychedelic experience as a trip. Astral projection is an entertaining and harmless pastime that can seem profound and in some cases even life-changing. But there's no evidence that out-of-body experiences happen outside the body instead of inside the brain. This is Ben Radford.
The Hansard is a podcast of the monthly lectures run by Canberra Skeptics Incorporated. Each month, Canberra Skeptics provides experts in their field, ranging from science and philosophy to politics and national security, with an opportunity to present their views. You can find us at www.canberraskeptics.org.au. The Hansard, Canberra Skeptics' Record of Reason.
Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone. I'm feeling much better. Hopefully I won't need the services of simulated human voice again. Hopefully. Actually, she's not that bad. She follows instructions. I'll give her that. Coming up on next week's show, I don't know. Maybe solar flare. We can only hope. Soon anyway, I promise. Soon. But I can tell you one thing, over the next few months, you're going to be hearing many interesting interviews from my trips around Europe. Let's see, Germany, Norway, Ireland, the UK, and the Czech Republic. I think I can get some very interesting interviews and insights for you over the next few weeks, which we can all enjoy over the next few months. If my voice lasts that long, if it doesn't, well, then I might just get simulated human. Whew. All right, folks. Thanks for listening to the Skeptic Zone once again, and a big thank you, a very big thank you to those people who chip in only $1 a week to help put the show out, help buy me equipment like the microphone I'm using at the moment. It really does make a big difference. So until next week, this is Richard Saunders signing off from Sydney, Australia.
You've been listening to The Skeptic Zone. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for comments, contacts, and extra video reports.